All right, guys. So we are going to start today with friends and family and how our relationships and the way that we play and interact evolve over the lifespan. So when 3-year-olds are playing together, one of the main things that they're concentrating on is this person similar to me? Do they have toys that I like to play with? And questions like that. As they get older, they have different types of play that they engage in. So functional play is merely when they play with the toy in a simple way that the toy was designed. So they might roll the car back and forth repeatedly across the table, for example. Parallel play is just what it sounds like. It's when you and another child may sit next to each other and play with very similar toys but don't directly interact. And in fact, that is neurotypical and is to be expected. And then onlooker play is when, again, what it sounds like, you have a kid who is sitting down watching another child play. This is also what kids do if you watch them watch YouTube. They will actually watch other children play with toys. As they get older, they start to do something called constructive play. So this is when two children might play together in a way that they are working on a project together, or they need each other's back and forth help to complete the activity, which is actually a more developed form of play. We know that as we get older, what we want and need out of a friendship is different. So when we are young, preschool age, we tend to just kind of pick people because they have similar toys as we do, they live in the same neighborhood as we do, and they're interesting to us for those reasons. Then as we get older, we start to expect our relationships to have this sense of mutual trust between them. And then as we get even older, we actually expect intimacy. So we want to share ideas and thoughts and personal things about ourselves, and we want to choose people who are loyal to us and who will maintain those friendships. So during the teenage years, we tend to put a lot of emphasis on our friendships, and they tend to have a significant part about how we see ourselves and how we think about ourselves when it comes to our relationships. So, as we tend to rely more on our friends to understand ourselves in the context of the world, we actually start to form these different cliques and crowds. So, a crowd is the type of group of people where you will get your vocabulary, the way that you dress, how long you wear your socks. So, if you go into a high school, you'll see a crowd. And in that crowd, people will adhere to certain social norms. And so, people might use this to measure themselves or to think whether or not they are kind of adding up to what they should look like and what the rules are for them in their particular social circle. As I'm sure we all remember from when we were teenagers, this is also the time when you start to kind of organize yourself and decide whether you are in a popular crowd. So these are genuinely people who are very popular. So a lot of people like them. They are well liked, okay? This is usually in our culture, people who are extroverted because we value that particular trait in our society, and also people who lie well. And this is because a lot of people who are popular know how to fit in certain social situations. So if you're a little awkward and you don't lie well, then you probably won't be popular. Then they have teens who are controversial. So this is what we think of when we say popular. So these are teens that are well known, and they might be liked by a part of a group of people, but they might be disliked by others. But they are well known throughout the school. And then there are, of course, the rejected students. So these are students who are not liked by anyone, even though they are known because they don't usually adhere to societal norms. And then there are neglected. So these are people who you might not even remember their name if you went to high school with them, like you might not remember who they were. Even though we've been mentioning this entire time that adolescence is really a time when people are developing their own sense of self and creating these new relationships with their peers, most of us will share our parents' political views and religious views. Now, this is not always the case. Obviously, you have different experiences and they might evolve and change over time. But generally speaking, we tend to share those views of our parents, which is probably not surprising. This is why certain political views continue to exist through the generations. So throughout the lifespan, after, like the preschool age, once we reach adolescence, we tend to seek friendships into adulthood that provide that intimacy, but it usually is people who are physically close to us. So what I mean by that is if you live in a highly trafficked area, you're more likely to have relationships, and people who have a general similarity to us, whether that is through socioeconomic status, their race, their ethnicity, their culture, we tend to pick people who are similar to us. As we get older, friendships become even more important, and they are a great source of social support, often because they are more supportive than family members, and they are easier to maintain ties with as we get older.